If you've ever had to deal with entitled people, why it happens, how you can respond to it, this is definitely the episode for you because it's something that you want to arm yourself with and even be aware of your own entitlement. So let's jump into that right now.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. I'm super duper excited that you're here. I'm always excited that you spend a little time with me while walking, eating, driving, cleaning, whatever you're doing at the same time of being here. Man, I'm glad that you're here. I'm not entitled to have you here. And that's what we're going to talk about is the entitlement of people. Why does it happen? How can you arm yourself with it? And even awareness of yourself, right? And it's important to be self-aware and self-actualized because many people aren't, and often we're not. And focusing on you being the issue, because you always want to be the issue, it gives you a little bit more power, a lot of it, more power over change. The podcast worksheet this week on Patreon is going to really break that down, have you force some very difficult, harsh truths. You can, of course, find that over at patreon.com/the positivity experience with an X. Just like the website, if you want the free letting go workbook, it's a free 10-page workbook. You can also book sessions with me there. And that is the website, also found in the show notes, positivityexperience.com. So I want to jump into this right now. This is something that will stress you out, and it doesn't need to. I know it's going to, and until you have developed those boundaries and understand that people largely do what people do because they're always going to people, and it really doesn't have anything to do with you. A person's actions really have nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them, where they are, their lack of emotional maturity, because it's not just rudeness. It's a deep rooted belief system. So this is their belief system, and that's tied to absolute unhealed emotional deficits, cognitive distortions, and power dynamics. And of course, massive ego. And so what this is going to do, it's going to help you unpack the science and psychology of entitlement. So this way you can recognize it, stop excusing it, and protecting yourself from being manipulated by it. But that middle piece I want to talk to you about, and that is stopping excusing it. There's always going to be something that you tell yourself until you really accept that you are your biggest priority. You are the top, like you should be your top priority at all times. Until then, you're going to make excuses for people. You're going to fall in love with having a boundary, but then you're going to be like, oh yeah, but you know what? They had a bad childhood. Oh, they're just going through something right now. Okay, valid. You can have empathy, but not engage in the entitlement. And unfortunately, you're going to find a lot of people like this. And I know some of you, you're going to find it close to home. Sometimes most times, people who can inflict a lot of this trauma, most of this trauma, are going to come from your family. That's right. Sometimes that's going to happen. And it sucks, but that's why your relatives are relatives and family's family. So just because you're a relative doesn't mean that you're entitled to something. That's called appealing to duty. So before I even jump into all of the stuff I want to talk to you about today, appealing to duty. I'm your blank, so you have to do blank. I'm your mom, so you should have to do this, or you should want to do this. I'm your blank. So that's appealing to duty, meaning they have some role in your life, regardless of what it is, and they feel entitled to have you show up, serve them, whatever the case may be. So what is entitlement based in science and psychology? So here's the definition, and it's important to understand the definition. It's a pervasive sense that one deserves special treatment, privileges, or attention without regard of others' needs or boundaries. The end of that, others' boundaries. So it's a pervasive sense that one deserves special treatment. And this is where the people will go in and think, I deserve special treatment because I had trauma in my childhood. I deserve special treatment because I'm your mom. So those boundaries can be everybody else's. They're not going to be mine. And I mean, this is their true belief system. They believe that they are entitled to special treatment across the board. You know, hey, I don't want to have to stand in line at the bank. I'm in a hurry. Well, I don't care that you're in a hurry. You're going to stand in line, but I have things to do. It's not about you. So number one, if any of these things as we're talking about, it rings true for you, don't degrade yourself or shame yourself. Just be like, ooh, okay, I'm doing this. I didn't realize I was doing this. Again, self-awareness. And then at that point, then you can shift it, correct it, or anything like that. And it's the privileges. Like, I am privileged to this. You're not. You're not. And it's also an overindulgent or neglectful parent. This is where this can stem from. So if you ever wonder, well, why is this happening? Well, based in psychology, we know it's overindulgent of people. We're going to talk about that, or neglectful parenting. So you understand neglectful. Let's talk about overindulgence, because people can create narcissists walking around here without even realizing it and thinking that they're doing positive, and they're not. If a person overpraises a child, you're the best, you can do anything you want, you can't do anything you want. No, you can't. Stop. I can't at 54 years old go join an NBA team or a WNBA team. I can't do that. So stop telling me I can do whatever I want. So if you're overdoing it, little Billy wasn't invited to this party and he needs to do this, and you're the best and you do all of these things. Well, now you're raising an entitled person, and they are going to assume that everybody has to include them. Everybody has to do that. So if you're a parent and you went through some neglect and you did all of that, you want to make sure your kids don't go through that. Do not go on the other side of that. Do not put your whole entire life as a parent on these children. That's in general. That's period. The children cannot be your first priority. You have to be your first priority. In turn, you become a more engaged parent. You become a parent who can set rules and boundaries and teach that, and let people deal with their own emotions so they can learn that emotional regulation. But if you are overindulgent, or if you see somebody who you're like, oh my God, this person feels like they're entitled to everything, and they may be 56 years old and they go home and their person or their parents or whomever else still praises their every move. They can't do anything wrong. Oh my gosh, no, you got to do this. That's going to create a problem in relationships and a problem in life in general. So you can't be overindulgent. That can be equally different, but equally as problematic as a neglectful parent. It can be equally, except for one creates more of an attachment, like, oh my God, anxious attachment. And one creates an avoidant attachment, like, I ain't gonna deal with that. So you have to be careful of that, because that's where entitlement can come from. Unresolved trauma or emotional enmeshment. So if you go back to the emotional enmeshment podcast. I did a podcast. If you're on Patreon, you have the worksheet. I would encourage you to go back to that so you can understand your enmeshments a little bit more. But when you have emotional enmeshment, or you're not dealing with your trauma, in some ways, you're going to find them or you who feels entitled, right? You can also see this on a smaller scale, like we talked about multiple times, is if you have a bad day at the office or you're in traffic and you come home, you walk in the door, you fling the door open, and you're going to dump all your garbage on somebody. Hard pass. It's not about you. You want to ask and make sure somebody's in a space to hear you, and vice versa. If somebody comes in and they're coming in guns a-blazing, you need to stop that right in its tracks and say, hey, I'm happy to hear this. I'm not in a space to hear this right now. And how they handle it is how they handle it. But this is where that entitlement comes from. You're my this, so I should have free reign to do whatever I want. So if somebody has narcissistic traits or core insecurity, that's going to be masked by arrogance, right? So think of arrogance and insecurity as a person who says, entitled person, I'm in this room because I deserve to be in this room. Yeah. Yes. Everybody has the right to be, deserving of walking and belonging in any room that they are, you, me, or anybody else. But you do so from a place of understanding you're not better and you're not worse. You belong there. No one's better than you. No one's, worse than you. But when you walk in and you have entitlement, you believe that you deserve to be there because you are the smartest in the room, which you do want to be the smartest in the room if somebody's hiring you to be the smartest in the room. But you're not entitled to be invited. You're not. These are people who you will find will take offense because they didn't get invited. They will take offense because the boundary that you created of no shoes in the house, they're like, that's not for me, right? It's as though they hold this entitlement. And again, unresolved trauma, emotional enmeshment, maybe somebody was overindulged or the other way around. And it's also related to low emotional regulation. So we know emotional regulation, emotional dysregulation. Emotional dysregulation is where that problem comes in, right there. So when you're sitting in that emotional dysregulation and you don't know what to do with it, there's this level of, well, you owe me. So you might find this with people that you're like, oh my God, they have no emotional regulation. You're going to see that. And they're going to have the inability to take accountability. This is always funny. I always tell you to do this little litmus test. And I don't scroll socials, but I want you to try this little litmus test where go out and look at something that's going to put a mirror in somebody's face. Like, you're accountable for your own healing. You're accountable for your own emotions. Now go out and look at that. And then look at something where somebody's like, I was a victim of a narcissist and blah, 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 and this person's an asshole. See which one gets the most engagement. The accountability one, people are going to be like, no, no one do that. So when a person lacks the ability to look inward and take accountability for themselves, their healing, their emotions, their whatever, if they lack taking that accountability, that's going to increase this entitlement where it's everybody else. It's this person's problem. It's the girl at work. It's the dad. It's the traffic. It's the wall that you hit with your toe. Like, it's everything and everybody else. And that's going to cause this inflated self-importance, and that's going to come from a defense mechanism. Okay, so these are the people that we know they're going to come off and trying to feel like they're entitled because they're so confident. They're not, because when you think you're entitled, you're opposite of confident. Now, to walk in and go, doesn't matter to me one way or another, and not get activated by somebody, that's emotional regulation, that's emotional intelligence. There's not a scenario where entitled people have emotional intelligence. They do not. So the psychology behind that, again, it could be overinflation of who, oh my God, you're amazing. You can do anything you want. You should be invited to everything. Mommy will come to your rescue. Daddy will come to your rescue when you're little because you got to invite. Okay, so now everybody, please come over. I can't believe nobody showed up for little Billy's birthday party. Now you're navigating all of this. You're not helping, because now those people are going to feel like everybody's entitled. They're entitled to be invited and doing everything. Hard pass. Now, there's some science behind that. So research links entitlement to lower distress tolerance and poor empathy development. So you can have empathy, but not enable. That's a whole other different topic and podcast. But if you have a lower distress tolerance, and this is within science, you remember your brain, super smart, your brain, super stupid, because your brain is going to believe what you tell it. So it's the chicken and the egg. First, you have some random thought that seems negative and maybe intrusive. So it feeds the brain to go, hey guys, we are in danger. And boom, all the family comes together, the cortisol, everything comes, and we're going to go off to the party, because your brain doesn't go, calm down. That's not a thing. So you have to train your brain. Mindset trains your brain. But if you're not working on it, if you're not taking accountability, literally, it links entitlement to lower distress tolerance. And studies show how entitled people often have a self-serving bias. It's all about their self-serving. And they blame others for failures and expect praise for minimal effort. You ever see those people who, I don't know, let's say they off cuff just go and they get you a coffee. Great. And you go, oh, thanks. Or maybe you're just like, oh, appreciate it. Thanks. And then they think, well, that was it? Yeah, you did. Yes. I'm not going to do backflips because you bought me coffee. I said, thank you, plenty. That's it. But there will be people who look for that praise, and they're doing minimal effort at best. But they feel as though, well, I did this. Oh my God. Okay, cool. But if they have a self-serving bias, it doesn't matter, because they're often doing favors, or they're pretending to be super kind and caring, but they're keeping score. When you have people who keep the score, that's entitlement. I did this for you. You have to do this for me. They do not. So that's why you want clarity. So let's say somebody says to you, hey, can you help me paint the wall tomorrow, whatever, next week? And you think, okay, I'm going to come over and help them paint the wall. That's it. Don't throw that up in their face a month from now when you ask them to help you move and they say no. Don't sit there and go, but I helped them paint. Yeah, you did that on your own. Now, if you know that this is coming up, you can say, hey, I'm happy to help you paint. I know in like 3 weeks, I'm going to be moving some stuff. Can you please help me? So now you're prefacing this kind of like, hey, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to need you to do this. And even if you don't know what that is, you can say, yeah, I'm happy to do that. I know I got a few things up and coming. I might need some help. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to help you paint. I just really would like you to help me with something as it comes up, blah, blah, blah. That's not entitlement. That's communication. Entitlement is, I did this. You owe me this. And that's where you're like, don't do me any solid favors, right? Don't help me paint my wall. And then 6 years from now, you're telling me, I can't believe you didn't come over and help me paint my wall when I helped you 6 years ago. Then don't help me. See, so you have to realize if you're accepting someone's favors, if you're even doing a favor, you have to level set if there's expectations that come with it. And if you don't, then you keep it for what it is. So why do entitled people bulldoze people? Because you're going to find people, boom, these are the Karens. This is, I need to talk to your manager. This is those people. Because they assume that their discomfort should be prioritized over your boundaries. I'm uncomfortable. I'm really upset about that. Well, who cares? Who cares? You now have to ask yourself, why does their comfort mean more than your peace? And you're listening to this podcast, so you don't necessarily have the answer to that. You're listening to this podcast because you're still somewhat in people-pleasing mode, or you're trying to navigate through that. So that's fine. But you have to, again, take accountability in understanding this is a slow process, this is a consistent process, but this is solely your responsibility. So if you find people who feel uncomfortable, or they feel upset about something and they just don't like it, they're going to put that on you to make it seem like it's your job now to make them feel good. And it isn't. And they're always, by the way, going to use manipulation disguised as an obligation, guilt tripping, appealing to duty, yada, yada, yada. This goes into what I was just saying. I helped you do this. I can't believe that. Oh my God. Oh, I would have helped you paint. Or I would have helped you box up those boxes. Why does that person feel the need to even say that? That's guilt tripping. And guilt tripping is always manipulation, nothing else. And here's the thing. Entitled people are going to, they're going to equate love with compliance. So if you care, you'll cave. So to show somebody you love, in their mind, you got to be compliant. Well, I got to be compliant. No, you don't. You don't have to be compliant in anything. If you have to be compliant to prove love, that's a problem. That's a problem. Now, that's where you have to say, this is side note, that's where you have to say, I have to accept this for what it is, not as I want it to be. Not, oh, if they would only get therapy. They clearly haven't. They're clearly not going to. Let that go. Let it go. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you don't like it. It's going to be what it is. So this is where you have to say, okay, I can't control them. Facts. I can't make them get help. Facts. So when you understand that, then you can say, but I can create my space to understand what I want from them, if anything at all. But you got to be willing to do that. You got to be willing to be uncomfortable. Because if you're not, it's going to create a problem. So if they're equating love with compliance, that's an issue. Now, here's some common manipulations. Ready? You've heard me say this in short forms. After everything I've done for you. I know so many of you just cringed. Like, oh my God, I hear this a lot. After everything I've done for you, again, you are not obligated. Stop. But you owe me that much, or, that's the least you could do. And then that's just what families do. I know you've heard that. Well, that's just family first. No, not family first. That's a bullshit narrative. Relatives and family are different. So if you're going to say family first, this could be friends, this could be all of that. Just because you're a relative doesn't mean that you automatically get to default to being an ass. And then I've got to deal with it because you're my sister or my spouse, or I got to make it right because mom doesn't feel comfortable. I know some of you go through this where you stand your ground, and then your sibling or your dad or whomever calls you and goes, hey, you really need to make things right with your mom. What? Don't even engage in that conversation. That's where you say, I am not going to have this conversation. I will not cave to you. Click into the story. And if somebody keeps bringing it up, then you have to say, if you bring this up again, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to hang up. And then if they do it again, you go, that if you do this again, I'm going to reconsider this entire relationship. That though is where you struggle. I'm going to create boundaries. No, you're not. No, you're not. Not until you're ready to face the fact that consequences must come with boundaries. Not how I'm going to be so gentle and I'm going to ask you really nicely. No, Stop trying to make boundaries warm and fuzzy. Stop. These are your boundaries. Now, the alternative on the other side of that is that's their boundaries. Whatever you come across somebody and they have a boundary, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. You have options, but you got to respect them. You got to have a relationship with them, but you do have to respect that. So why do you keep appeasing them? Well, we know there's multiple reasons. But if you've been conditioned to equate boundaries with cruelty, now you may have seen that. Oh, when someone goes, well, just look at them. They're so self-absorbed and entitled. By the way, there's only so many scripts that a gaslighter can use. And, oh, you're rude. Oh my God, that's so nauseating. You're going to hear that a lot. You're selfish. And those are the basics. Okay. So there might have been something that you heard growing up, whether it be in your family, whether it be in church, right? Because that can create a whole problem. The religious trauma can be extremely problematic because it's putting, this is what you have to do. And this has to be family first. And you must respect these people. Respect is not given. Respect is earned. But sometimes if you grew up in the church, you're going to equate all of this together. In turn, your religious trauma is preventing you from having a boundary. And then heaven forbid you decide, I'm not going to practice whatever religion it is. And then your people go, if you don't, oh my God, I'm disappointed in you. Good. Then you know what? That's created a boundary for you on its own. But you got to be willing to piss people off. You got to be willing to allow them that if they want to distance, they can distance, even if you want them in your space. And if you fear being seen as ungrateful or selfish, go deep as to why that's coming up for you. Or let's work on that together, you and I, more personally. Because for the most part, everybody has that basic, thing, but it could be a religious thing. It could be an abusive thing and you just wanted validation. I mean, some things are going to have to be kind of dissected a little deeper, but it's still going to be the same thing. So if you're seeing, if in your mind, if you think, oh, it's ungrateful, well, if somebody did you a favor, let's say somebody paid for your entire college, which would be amazing. You can do that for my daughter. Let's say they spent $100,000 on your loans and you said, thank you. Oh my God, that's amazing. If they're going to keep bringing up, but I did this, I sacrificed, I did this, I sacrificed. No, that's not doing it. That's keeping you on a hook. You can be grateful and not sacrifice your left kidney for the rest of your life. And every time you see them, you don't have to be like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Oh my God, I'm so grateful. What's that? You say, thank you. Obviously be appreciative, but don't sit there and be abundant in all of these constant chronic, oh my God, thank you so much. We already did that. We're good. And if you're trauma bonded to the approval that you never consistently received, you're going to feel entitled. And again, not saying you get up and go, I'm entitled, but you're seeking something. So again, scales go on both sides. Obviously the neglectful parent, we know that's trauma bonding. You're trauma bonded to this idea of validation and oh my God. Well, the other side of that is you're overindulged. You're told how perfect you are. Oh, like I said, that creates a whole separate problem. Pretty equal in damage, by the way. So if you're trauma bonded to the approval that you didn't consistently receive, being invited to parties, this is the overindulgent, being invited to parties, doing all those things. Now you feel entitled to do it now. Now you're constantly trying to prove yourself. You're also looking for somebody else's demise. So entitled people, when they don't get their way, they're going to try to wait for you to quote unquote fail, and that's why you just block like a profession. You do so much of your own suffering. You create it. Why are you still following exes? Block, remove every platform. If you're not doing that, that's a you issue because you're creating your own suffering, seeing pictures and, oh my God, I can't believe this. Why are you doing that? Take the accountability. Don't let your insecurities or your ego keep something in the loop that is not helping you. And appeasing entitlement doesn't build peace. It reinforces the delusion that their discomfort is your responsibility. So if you start appeasing this entitlement, because they had a bad day, they had this, blah, 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 that's not building peace for anybody, but it is reinforcing their delusion that it is up to you or whomever the yous are to create, to be responsible for their discomfort. If you feel, again, we know it's trauma, we know it's people pleasing, I get it, but you need to get You need to get through that piece of it and accept that you're here today and it's your responsibility. Okay, so we know that you're here not by choice, but your choices start now. Your choices start today. Your choices start the moment you take accountability. But if you keep appeasing it and you keep worrying about taking on somebody else's comfort, you will never establish a boundary. You will never have peace. You don't pick up the phone every time somebody can't sleep and then talk them through sleep. Once in a while, amazing. But you cannot allow yourself to be, oh, okay, you're old faithful. Like, okay, this can be at any time. Because then you're going to get caught up in your head and be like, they just keep taking advantage. Nope, they do not. You keep giving. I told you before, a person can't take what you're not given. So then you have to look and go, why do you keep giving? What are you hoping is going to change? Because now you're feeding into their entitlement. Now they feel entitled that because you're the grandparent, you're obligated to watch your grandkids. You are not. You'll never have to watch those grandkids. So how can you handle it without over-explaining yourself? Because that's a problem you got. Stop over-explaining yourself. You can be right or you can be happy. You choose. You can be, amazingly smart and over the top, or you can be lucky. Choose lucky. Choose lucky because you can be smart and never have luck on your side, so to speak. It's not necessarily luck, it's alignment, but whatever. We'll use that for the sake of being. No is complete. If you guys have followed me, not just on my podcast, if you've worked with me, no is my favorite word. No is something I have you create as your favorite word. It doesn't matter how somebody receives that. No, period, end of story. If you start over explaining it, it's your ego, it's your need to not be disliked. Okay, we know that that's a problem, so that's what we work on. But I'm not available for that. That's what you say. I'm not available for that. Or this doesn't work for me. I don't need to justify it. Because you're going to have the people as you start developing these boundaries that are so used to being able to kind of put you in a corner or kind of aggressively come at you and know that you're going to crumble. So if they're going to hear you and you're going to create some boundary with consequences, they're going to be like, yeah, whatever, going through something. You got to inflict that boundary. You got to hold those consequences. And if they try to push, hey, this doesn't work for me, I'm not going to justify it. And if that continues, this relationship will need to be reevaluated. But that piece, are you willing to say this relationship will need to be reevaluated? And then will you follow through with it? That other stuff, you can say that. That means nothing. Nothing without a consequence. And you don't, listen, tell somebody because they don't know. Tell them one time. Don't reiterate that before you go, I told you if you ask me again, I'm going to have to reconsider this relationship. No, boom. Or hey, you know what? This is not what I want for my growth. This relationship is kind of run its course. And right now, I think we just need to take a minute. But are you willing to accept that? Not even just them. So that you want to use the gray rock method. That's where you're emotionally flat, low engagement. Emotionally flat. You're just flat. Yeah, okay. Sure. Whatever. And, you have to do the cap on conversation. Don't stay on the phone defending yourself. You can't. Why are you doing that? You're getting angry. You're on the phone. You're in front of them. You're defend. Now you're irritated. You did that to yourself. You did it to yourself. Don't stay on the phone. Don't stay in front of them. Stop defending yourself. And then, you have the response bank pre-written replies for common guilt trips. So you can know, because I'm telling you right now, they have a script. Narcissists have a script. Gaslighters have a script. Manipulators have a script. Trauma bonded people have a script. There's a script because you can only use it. So there's only so many ways to try to get your way, or there's only so many ways to people please. So there's always going to be a script. So if you give yourself just a little response bank, this doesn't work for me. That's it. Or you can say, this doesn't work for me. I don't need to justify it. Or no. And if they start again, you say, I don't need to justify my no. But are you willing to do that? You can listen and go, yeah, that sounds great. Are you willing to do it? And you've got to be uncomfortable. Stop thinking you're going to be not uncomfortable and then do it. You're going to have to keep doing it. You need that mindset reset. Their entitlement is not your emergency. Their entitlement is not your emergency. So, oh my God, this traffic. And like they say to you, can you believe this? Can you believe this traffic is here? I am running late. Well, who gives a damn? That's a you problem. That is not the traffic's problem. That is not the guy in the left lane going a little bit slower than normal. That's not that person's problem. So you're going to find that their entitlement, I got to do this, hurry, 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 hurry. No. You wake up one day, you're like, I want to get an oil change. Okay. And they're like, oh, I can't get you until Saturday and it's Monday. Well, but I'm leaving on Thursday. That's not that person's problem. That's a you problem. Don't sit there and try to force somebody else or let them force it onto you that to make it your emergency. It is not. And you're not mean for having boundaries. You're healed. Because I'm telling you, I've told you, you're going to have to be okay. I say this to every client almost day one. The same people who start on your journey will not always stay on your journey or end up on your journey. Accept it or don't start the journey. Because you don't always get to choose what that looks like because they can fall off on their own, which actually saves you from having to deal with that anyway. And then it opens up space for something in somebody else. Being misunderstood is way better than being manipulated. 100%. Allow yourself to be misunderstood. Allow yourself to be rude, whatever. But again, this does go back to you, what you want it to. Are you in a trauma bond? Are you falling in love with the fantasy of what it could be? Are you in a victim state mindset? Well, then you can't just listen to this and say, oh, okay, I'm going to deal with entitled people. Well, you better get to the deeper part of that before you even start this. You better get very comfortable of knowing this relationship may never be as you want. You may have to get out of the marriage. You might have to distance from everybody in your life. You might not have to, but you got to be open to it. Now, what happens when you stop appeasing? Yeah, baby, because you want to be able, I'm telling you, if you do this enough and you get very confident in yourself, oh my God, no will become your newest favorite thing. Hey, what color shirt? No. Hey, do you want, no. You don't even know what it could be. It doesn't even have to be a yes, no question. No is just going to be boom. That's going to be your default answer. And you're going to stop sacrificing your peace on a regular basis because somebody wants you to take on their discomfort, not your job. Not your job. So you may be accused of being cold, mean, or difficult. Let that happen. Because if you're trying to prove otherwise, you're still in people pleasing. You're not setting a boundary. You're not proving a point until you can accept that you're going to be labeled as difficult, mean, cold, rude, selfish, going through something. Again, script. You'll probably lose people who only love the version of you that they could control. Let that go. Let that go. I don't care what you thought it was. Oh, I guess I loved them more than than they loved me. All right, accept that for what it is. Accept that for what it is. It's real easy. That's why people pleasers do it, is to feel loved and approved and validated. So the moment that stops and there's not a benefit, a lot of times you're going to be cut. That's it. You got to go. So don't allow yourself to feel the need to over-explain, because people are going to be committed to misunderstanding you anyway. Be misunderstood, not manipulated. And that's extremely important. And that's multiple and very important. So, but you'll gain. You will gain. Even though you're losing people, you will gain. And your nervous system regulation will provide you with clarity. You might not like what you see. Take accountability. You might not like what you see, but don't pretend like you don't see it. There's a meme. I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram or something. Again, I don't really scroll, so I see it when I see it. But it said, person or therapist, whatever. Hey, you saw the red flags. And they were like, me, I thought it was a carnival, right? Because that's what happens. You are seeing it and then you're telling yourself, that's not what I'm seeing, because you don't like it. So it's just really, really important, because your nervous system is going to give you clarity. But don't say you want to feel better and you want to have confidence, but then when you're given the clarity, you don't like it. So then you stop doing it. Don't do that. Because you're not going to like always what you hear. You're not going to like being called on the carpet. You're not going to like being, well, you don't have to be available for your daughter every time she calls you 15 times a day because she can't go to sleep every single day. And now you're talking her through sleep and you're 50. We're not doing that. So listen, it's one thing to be available. It's one thing to be empathetic. It's great. We love that. But there is that fine line. A lot of people do that too. And like, I get that, especially with my son who's 29. Oh, we went through a lot, just he and we ended up, staying with friends and, I wasn't able to give him a Christmas. So they gave him a Christmas. Like, trust me, we've been through a lot. So I did try to like overgive as best as I could, even if it wasn't just money, things to try to make up for things. That again, luckily he's not a narcissist because he's just not that guy. He's quite the opposite, actually. But I was able to catch myself and pull back. But you want to be really careful of running interference for that person. Don't take, because my ex-husband and I, we just didn't talk. I mean, great. We speak now. He's got a wife. He's got 2 kids. Like, it's fine. And my husband, Paul, he's very much my son's dad since he was 9. But I remember trying to make up for his biological dad not being in there early on when it was just he and I'd buy things and be like, oh, it's from your dad. Why was I doing that? Because I thought I was protecting him. I wasn't. Your actions can lie, your words can lie, your energy cannot. So you have to stop trying to navigate somebody's discomfort, including the children, because you're not giving them any tools if you constantly are in protect mode. That's your sister, that's your friend, that's your mom, because she's getting older. Your grandmother's getting older. So you are going to show up to Thanksgiving dinner because you don't know how many Christmases grandma's going to have left. But guess what? You can't sit there and keep doing that. Don't sit there and say, because you're going to make excuses. This person's too old. This person's too sad. This person's too short. This person's too tall. This is Christmas time. It's summer. It's too hot. It's too cold. There's always going to be something that you can make an excuse for. Always. Always. So if you're afraid of being accused of being cold, and again, I use this example a lot. If you had some magic power and you just world peace was on here and nobody needed money, everybody's healthy, nobody's sick, perfect world. There would still be somebody or people in a little group that would look at you and say, well, if you could do this, why didn't you do this before now? It doesn't matter. There's always going to be somebody who says, okay, but why didn't you do it sooner? Why didn't you do it? All of these things come up. Don't sit there and take that on and try to worry about it and take on somebody else's discomfort. It's going to become a problem. You need that emotional Soventry. Oh my God, I can never say that word. Because entitled people, they don't want relationships. They want obedience. Don't get that twisted. They do not want that relationship. They want obedience. And you see that a lot when somebody has insecurity in relationships. Here's an example of that. Again, everybody who's entitled isn't intentionally that way. But let's say you had a relationship with somebody and the person betrayed you, or you just felt like you were lied to and all that stuff. So that relationship's done. And you see this new person, you're like, oh, hi. You're like, yeah, but you haven't worked on your stuff. So now you're coming into this new relationship with all this trauma with this other person. And now you are expecting in entitlement that person to make up for what that other person did. So now you want a prisoner, you want obedience. You don't want them to not text you. Now this is different than having non-negotiables. This is this level of entitlement that you feel that because you were wronged, the next person's got to prove themselves to you. Wrong. That means do not get in that relationship first. Stop jumping into relationship after relationship after relationship because you keep looking for stuff. We're not doing that. So that's where you'll find entitled people who will sometimes try to put it on you after they had a bad relationship or a bad friendship. And now it's your responsibility somehow to make it better. And it isn't. They want obedience because your job is not to shrink so they can feel big. You ever hear people say, don't dim your light? It's the same thing. Don't shrink to make them feel big. Don't not celebrate your wins because you're too worried that they're going to get sad about your win. Seriously, there are people who have just accomplished so many good things. Wear that like a crown. Be happy about it. That's right. Own it. Don't sit there and go, oh, I don't want this person to feel bad. Why are you shrinking yourself? Why are you shrinking all of these amazing things that you ever did to make somebody else feel okay and be big. Why would you allow that? You got to ask yourself that. Your job is to take up space. That's right. You're allowed to live here. You're allowed to exist. If that makes them uncomfortable, oh well, be uncomfortable. Because the deeper fact is you may have had growing up, whether it be a parent, whether it be caregivers, you may have had people who made you feel as though you were responsible for their feelings. You may have had that where you were like, you played the therapist to your mom or dad, where it's like, oh, I'm just so upset because your dad did this and da da da. Now they're dumping this on you. They have no right to dump this on you. No right whatsoever, but they did. So over a period of time, you navigated their feelings. Now, you guys know I was a child of an alcoholic with my dad. It was extremely abusive in every way, shape, or form. So there was this way that I wanted to, for my own safety, I wanted to navigate this in a specific way. Well, as I got older and that was no longer like I didn't have to deal with it. I mean, I still chatted with him. He was not all bad. It's not like he was this terrible person. He was going through his own stuff. I was collateral damage, but you know what? He went through his own things. And I was okay with it. Like I'm a big forgiver. I'm a big person who believes in forgiveness and letting things go because it's very freeing. And that could be the Buddhist / paganism / everything practitioner that I am and the mindfulness and all of that. So I choose to not carry any resentments or it's a choice and I can do it with no problem now, but I couldn't always, right? So if I'm always worried about managing emotions because I don't want to get yelled at or hit or something like that, okay, even though I had gotten through it, I will say I was pretty fortunate even before going through healing, understanding neuro studies and behaviors and stuff. I was pretty good that once I got out of that situation, I didn't feel the need to make myself like responsible for somebody's feelings. However, I'm very good at my job because I'm not responsible for your feelings. But what I consider myself responsible for, if we're working, even on podcasts, but if we're working privately, what I feel is I like to give you the tools so you can manage it yourself. I'm not fixing anything. I'm giving you the tools directly and harshly because that's what you need. But you have that capability. But you have the capability to put yourself as a priority. When you feel as though you were made to or obligated to take on somebody else's emotions and their feelings and blah, 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 blah. Let's say it wasn't even abusive. It was just something that they put on you. And this goes into family fixing. You're the fixer of the family. You're the glue. You're the matriarch of the family. So everybody has got to appease you. Well, it's going to make it difficult for you to go through life right now and not do that. Because in your mind, somehow or another, you are responsible for it. And let me validate you right now and telling you, you are not. Science proves that. Not just Lori, science, psychology. Now, do you want to hear it? Do you want to accept it? Now that's a you issue. That science can't give you that. I can't give you that. Psychology can't give that to you. You have to say, am I willing to be uncomfortable? If you're not willing to be, there's no scenario where you get comfortable and then you do the things. That's not a thing. Zero scenario of that. So those are the things that you really have to sit with and say, why am I allowing myself to take on somebody else's discomfort? Well, and obviously, like I said, we know why. There's a lot of reasons why, but are you willing to let that person say, my feelings are so hurt and you hurt me? No, they're saying that you hurt them because you didn't reach some obligation that they thought that you needed to give them. They assumed you were going to do something without clarifying it. They assumed that. So now their feelings are hurt. So it's your responsibility to fix it somehow. Hard pass. Super hard pass. So you have to remember that this journey, this growth journey, isn't just, it's empowering, but it's got to be difficult. It's got to be uncomfortable. It's got to be you have to allow yourself to be first, even if you were told growing up that's selfish, even if you were told, how could you do this to me? Oh my God, I know you heard that. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? And when you were little, you took it because you didn't want to be disappointing. You didn't want to do those things. You're a big person now. Anybody, and this is a harsh reality check for you. Let's get very brutally clear. If someone cannot respect your boundary, if someone doesn't want what's best for you based on what you want what's best for you and not them, they are not people to have in your life. Facts. That is a fact. I don't care how you want it to be. Look at it for how it is. You're allowed to mourn it, but you got to keep it going. You have to. I guess you don't have to, but then you're going to stay on this loop. The harsh reality is no one really cares about your peace more than you. No one is an expert on you but you, and you're still learning you. So when you do that, you're going to feel great. On the other side of it, you're always going to have adversities, right? That's how life works. But you got to let go of the idea that you need everybody to understand it. And by the way, too, nobody needs to celebrate your journey. That's your journey. Nobody has to cheerlead you on. It's great. I mean, it's great to have people who cheer you on, even if they wouldn't do it or they don't understand it, but they respect it. That's amazing. But that shouldn't be the deciding factor of the choices that you make. If you're so worried about losing people, that's the opposite of what we're talking about. Now you're feeding their entitlement. They are entitled to your availability. They are entitled to you doing whatever. They're entitled to the invite. They're entitled because you must come to Thanksgiving. What do you mean you're not coming? You have to come. You don't. You don't. So I want you to know that it isn't your job to take on somebody else's discomfort, and you're not obligated to do so. Yes. And like I said, if you're jumping over to Patreon, don't forget the worksheets there. It'll be very helpful. But this is very insightful to you if you allow it to be. And you don't always like to hear it. I hope it is triggering for some people. I hope it does. Because then that's your inner child. Remember what triggers are. It's your inner children. Your inner children need you to listen to them. So if you're triggered by it and you're like, oh my God, well, what would I do? And oh my gosh, I'm so upset. Good. Because it's about time you hear you. It's about time you show up for you. That person wasn't heard then. Don't be the other person who keeps neglecting it. So if you feel it, if you feel activated, listen to your inner child. Listen to what's being said to you. Why is this a triggering? Why? Because it might be you that feels called out. Good. Because then you have to say, what am I struggling with that I do feel entitled? Self-awareness. That's compassion for yourself, but you want self-awareness. Many people don't have it. So breathe, take a beat. You know what I mean? Like, you're valuable, you're worthy, you're all of those things. But you're also not obligated to take on somebody's emotions, and they're certainly not entitled to being around you. Check it out.